These are the issues that we need to address. You understand what I say? You see? Set the bar for the youth. Share, like, and subscribe and stay tuned to the channel. I don't know all this. Yes, Yes. Greetings once again in the mighty name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, my brothers and my sisters. Then you see it. No, and you don't know, miss out a day or two. See, me did have some previous engagement where we did have figure fulfill. That's it. But we are continuing with the reading of the book. And like I say, you know, today I might give, you know, like a rough idea of the knowledge a man gather from GP as well later on in the day. And we did promise them I'll big up the people them when they comment the magic word where they at the end of the last reading. You know, see it personally. But before I go in all of that, I want to big up man like Sublime. Seeing? You don't know. They are with me from day one and a man named A1 Shine. You know, see, the man, the logo say under construction. But you see, A1 Shine is a proper motivator, an inspiration to the program. And, you know, see, a strong influence from on every program from now on, now forward. So when I say, I'm one that I know, say, you know, you see the growth and the development of the program, yeah, so far, and from now on, more that I know, say, whatever the program can do, you know what I say, you know, anyway, just give a shout, Rasta, because the encouragement and the advice with the eye guy, like me say, come well, you know what I say, brother. You know, see, enough respect, man. Mad respect, cause, yeah, you know, see, more time you have certain meds, you know, sure everybody will see the way you see it. I agree with the way I said, so more time you want, just hold the corner. So I say, it's nice when you have even a one man where you know, say, definitely a reason with a man, if I even a man. So I say, and again, enough people and everything we agree upon, but you don't know, I could keep it respectful and teach more you know, so that's me learn, because I'm one of the first man to stop my car anywhere in the middle of nowhere and ask anybody for direction. See, I haven't got a problem with making mistakes. So we learn, so I move forward, you know, see it. And that we're there for. You get what I say? So, I start from top go bottom, you know. I only a big up because the chapter we are reading today is one of the shortest chapter. We'll close that in a couple of minutes, but it's fitting for me big up the people them where stick with it so far and like it so far. So I say, Andrew Whittingham, big up yourself, my general. Seeing A1 Shine, big up yourself, you know, my boss. I can't say enough, boy. I mean, I'll stop saying enough for one program. Can't deal with you. You know, see, mad respect, my G. You see the clippings where you see at the front, the video, yeah, as the intro was basically created ingeniously by A1 Shine. I couldn't dream of it, but I wouldn't come up with something that, you know, remarkable for myself. And that and a lie, and that would just make me want to talk for hours. Because we just come off a type of a band for 2 weeks. It's I can't go live at the moment. I have to wait till that band declare for I think 9 months or something like that. Or really, you don't know, we not a problem because you know, we're still there, do what we can, do the best way we can. And we never did have them expectation that, you know, the past, you know, them think they just crack up on we. So we appreciate it and we are, yeah. You know, see, yeah, so Andrew Whittingham as well. Big up yourself, big man, you don't know. See, try G Brown, my brother that. My brother. Yo, try G, bro. The man they a liar, the man that did for being a Rasta. You know, see, the man they cut out for being a liar, the man they never no farmer, The man that you never ever where I grew up with, you know, certain things are motivated. And we did have all the access. You know, see, enough respect my brother. You know, see it, and you don't know, you know, water walk one time to walk there again. And more life and prosperity. You know, see, yeah. Laurel Newman, big up yourself, mommy. You're there with you from day one, so I love that. See, Fitzroy Douglas, more blessed man. Serena Atkins, dip them better and dip them. I mean, one of that comment, Yasa, you know, because Yasa was the key word for the last one. She that girl, yeah, destined to greatness. You know, she could have great already, because you have some decent people, boy, and she's, you know, big up yourself, mama. Jinx, big up yourself too. You know, see, Jerry Avid Music, big up yourself in general. Javier, or Javier, yeah, Javier Meloman, big up yourself, my brother. Yassa, you know, see, Yassa was the last, you know, Mary Morgan, big up yourself. You know, see, Kids for Fun, mad respect. Kids for Fun, remember your name from day one, you know. I think Kids for Fun, family, yes sir, family, see? Yes I give thanks, I appreciate, you see it, I appreciate love that. Be Young, mad respect. Lisa Smith, big up yourself, that's somebody who know me again from day jump, you know, see it, where validate the effort, you know, see it. Where it literally make I feel like, yeah, it's worth it, regardless. You know, see, enough respect. See, Be Young. See, Sublime Atom, I always big up, can't big up enough. Dana Wilson, mad respect, man. See, Anthony Chase. See, Foreign Style, big up your chest, my family. See, glad for the input, you don't know. Simply Put News. See, Naggy World, see, Wataguan Media, and all of them people. Big up yourself, Extravert, you don't know your thing. Your thing, mad my general, and enough respect, and I'm mad, you don't know, mad motivation, same way, you know, when you feel no way, you don't know, yeah, you don't know, you know, see, Mark Brown, big up yourself, my brother. You don't know, man. Mad love. Odean Johnson, yes, sir. Odean Johnson. Can't forget it, you know, general. Odd card, I name the Odean, you know, see. Try G Brown. You don't know, you know, see. For a long time, you're there with me, Odean. Mad love, my general, you know, see. Yeah, man. Gary Morrison. Yeah. Donovan Powell. Big up yourself and family. Enough respect. See? Wayne Halliburton. Yeah, Wayne Halliburton. Wayne Halliburton. Big up yourself, my family. See? Yeah, man. Asha Royal. Mad respect, my family. See? Tin Too Bad. My general. Tin Too Bad. Yes, I. Mad respect. You see it. Yes, over there. Yes, I. See? So, some of the comment them from. You don't know, a whole heap of people, you know, see it, and a whole heap of people don't really comment either, you know, see it, because you don't know. I would have bored enough of them, because my reading would have sound like much more time, you know, see. But you don't know when I brag away about, so still I try to communicate, just slow it down and take your time and work it out. So when I say, regardless, you know, it's not that hard to discern, you know, see it. Whereas if you're up there, on a level with the communication skill. You see? Someone has enough respect and, you know, whole heap of love to all of the subscribers and all of the people that will engage in the conversation and the topic them respectfully. You know, see, all of the vlogger them as well, where subscribe to the channel and, you know, engage. Respect. You see, big up yourself, King Mix Up. See, cause you're good youth. You take care of your family. You know, hurt nobody, you know, rob and kill nobody, brother. You see, big up yourself. I don't mean to offend you in no way. See? We just have to say a thing. You know, see? I respect same way. Because a long time, you don't know me, general. You don't know. Regardless of how you do your thing, nothing where you do, I don't like how you do it. I like the things that way you do. And I like, well, me wouldn't do it like that. You know, you say, put it that way. You know, see? I wouldn't say it like that. You know? You know, like when you describe a particular, we always describe some Jamaican blogger, you know what I say? You know, the suck business, I don't think you should have, I just think you should appropriate yourself with a little level of decorum, given the facts that you personally said on a whole lot of occasion, say, you highlight the level of illiteracy. But we not go straight from the fact, we not create no animosity and we not disrespect nobody. I just mad love see away for everybody were an admiration, because not because me the road that's why I do this. If everybody did I do this, we wouldn't have this to do. You know, see, that if other people never did I do for them thing, it wouldn't inspire this. Yeah, you understand? The simplicity, the simplistics in regards to the whole thing, you get what I say, wouldn't inspire this, so everybody inspire this, even the man them way, you know, show me that there is a need for the thing. See? And I give thanks, Rasta. See? I'm glad the whole of we can there and I share a certain level with opinion, advice or opinion. So, some sister the church is like symbolically, you know, Britain, I said the police got the church go lock off some Easter service whatsoever. Yeah. And it happened, it was on telly, open on TV. I like how that look, it just look. And after that, I say like 5 or 6 virgins go bow in front of the altar and walk off ground. I said, kind of look symbolic. You know, I say like you gossip up and it's like one power handing over power to the next. I just say it look to me, because whatever all of that play up on TV, and you never gonna try that, oh, that just happened so proper, and not like say even somebody in the audience a video it, you know, a decent video in quality and things. We not like that. You know, Babylon with us still, and we not really admire Babylon. Yeah, so we'll continue with it. Chapter 3. See, I want in your brambles. Couple pages there. See? So it not gonna take long. That's why I chat so much at the beginning. Hold on the door. Hopefully, yeah. The rains came hard that spring. 40 days of biblical intensity. Bridges washed out and country trucks listing with workers and sugarcane overturned in flash floods, spilling men and women into ravines. The flooded roads lured highwaymen who held up stranded motorists and demanded money to push their cars through the water onto dry ground. Kingston Street turned into swift running streams, threatening to drown school children. The country area was hit hardest. Farmers lost all of their crops, but many told the tales of heroism and kindness of friends who swamped through flood fields to rescue precious livestock. When the sun came out again, the water receded. The mud-caked rural parishes started digging out. Yeah, I remember that. You know, with reasons beyond my control, what I experienced, I've experienced before me. I find myself a Clarendon at the time there. You understand, my turmoil now community in East Kingston, Rockford, Shantytown part, I think so. Most of it did have to move out. I want to find myself a Clarendon. And I tell you, say, that was the year when Babylon first tested the harp machine in the Caribbean. 6 after 6, 1986. And the water came down and washed the whole. That was one of the occasions. You know, see, that's the point I'm making a point here. Seeing? Seeing? 6 after 6, 1986. Seeing where the whole of Clarendon was there. Clarendon made it there at the time. I mean, I tell you, say, just like them described, say, you know, it's not described as graphic because it's a river, deep river, with steep banks, You could have seen it run on the plane like, you understand what I say? You know, see the trench at the river no more and things like that. And you see cow, you see animal, you see house, you see tree, everything a pass a go in, you know, the current like, you know, like a jet. You see all of the road them wash away. People now know where to stay, people now know where to sleep. Oh, it was devastating. See, when we say that to say this, I've noticed every time the Labour government come in power, and we don't have to agree with me, you know, man, this is just my opinion from my observation. We always have some serious flooding going on the island of Jamaica, you know. We always have some serious disaster from 51 storm come right up, you know. It's like always when Labour government in power, some natural disaster always come mash up the island. I mean, check it out, check the facts. And mainly when them in power then. See? You know, we are going to hear a whole heap of comment just upon that one there. You see? So, the JLP seized on the floods as a prime public relations opportunity. It sent members of parliament out to their constituencies with seeds and tools for replanting the fields. I got an invitation from a woman I knew in the office of the Prime Minister to tour one flood-ravaged section of the parish of St. Anne. Parish of St. Anne, represented by Neville Gallimore, the Minister of Health, a friend of Haiti's baby Dr. Duvalier. He was the emissary Seaga sent to Haiti a year later when Jamaica wanted the dictator to leave Port-au-Prince peacefully. My friend Dorothy told me, to be at Jamaica House early the next morning to catch a ride with Gallimore's entourage. The scene at government headquarters was the usual chaos, with drivers trying to organize their vanfuls of media people and bodyguards. There was a slim, tobacco-brown photographer from the Jamaica Information Service, the island's press agency, who was standing apart from the throng. He was draped with camera equipment, wearing it long with a bulging photographer's vest and a natty cap that reminded me of a horse trainer. He was scanning the gleaner for the day's lineup of horses at the Cayman Spot racetrack, looking up now and then at the confusion around us with a glint of mirth in his eyes. He started talking before we knew each other's name. He told me he lived all his life in central Kingston, the waterfront ghetto that was Michael Manley's constituency and a little hotbed of tribal war. We soon discovered we had a friend in common, a Kingston actor whom I was seeing then, and the photographer told me the two of them had grown up together in Central in the days when it was the city's residential and commercial high, before the tribal violence of the 70s devastated the neighborhood. The actor had moved up in the world. He had earned a UE degree, which gave him a measure of status, along with plenty of painful conflicts about the downtown and uptown worlds he still tried to straddle. Both this photographer had stayed where he was born. But the photographer had stayed where he was born, and he wore his sufferer's struggle like the badge of honor it was. I is a ghetto man, born and bred, he said proudly, and then he gave me his hand. They called me Brambles. It was high noon by the time we got out of Kingston and onto Spanish Town Road, later renamed Mandela Highway, a speedway that goes by the city's industrial terraces and the sprawling shantytown called Riverton City. The first shanties had gone up around a garbage dump, and now the area was a home to thousands. The children of Riverton City formed their own posses to fight off the John Crow Bazaar they competed with for food. Dead animals by the dozen littered the highway, sending up wafts of putrid scent. I was riding in Dorothy's fancy car, and her driver went so fast that one of our tires exploded from the heat. When he stopped to change it, kneeling down on the melting asphalt, I saw the gun tucked into the waistband of his pants. Past Spanish Town, we started rising into cool green hills like the hollows of Kentucky or Tennessee, lush limestone mounds with tiny valleys and villages tucked between them. Our first stop was a town called Cave Valley, where Collymore was to speak to his constituents and then tour their southern fields. By the time we got there, I was car sick from the driver's homicidal speed and went to stand in the shade of a rum shop wall. You know, a junction road that mash her up, you know, man. She want a rum. But she can't stand in a rum shop wall. You can drink a rum, man. Sure. Gallimore was already haranguing a small crowd, raising high the rakes and hoes he had brought. They were gifts from America, Gallimore said, because Mr. Seaga and the Americans were close. And that's true. That's one of my biggest worry and disgust with the Jamaica Labour Party, because they've always had a long-standing and very good relationship with the Americans. I cannot see for... I think they are the party that's in the best position to have moved Jamaica forward from the Manley era. You understand what I say? If Manley was so bad and everything that he proposed was so bad, why not use the opportunity to, demolish PNP? You understand? Because people is always going to go with the progress. You understand? Anyway, I could continue. See? They were gifts from America, Gallimore said, because Mr. Seaga and the Americans were very close. The young men in the rum shop listened coolly to his speech. Their parish was prime ganja country, the source of the lamb's bread and cali weed, potent strains of ganja whose profits brought their sexy fishnet t-shirts and acid wash jeans. Sure, one of them hissed after a long pull from his red stripe bottle. What a fuck with that man, dear child. What a fuck with that man, dear child. Him come up here to tell we it's pure orange and banana we must plant again. And him know it's ganja we have to grow up here to survive. No, man. No way Seaga can hold this here place when next election come around. Seaga fight too hard against the ganja man then. There was proof of his bitterness. There was proof of his bitterness on the rum shop wall, one of the powerful pieces of local art that had come out of some Kingston printery and become collector's item. This one was called Jamaica Ganja Eradication. 4 army helicopters are landing in a burning ganja field. One soldier is suspended in mid-air like a terrible angel. He's M16 and already aimed at a farmer who stands with his weeping wife and children to watch their livelihood go up in smoke. A black mongrel dog is barking in futile defense, and there is a strange female face framed in one of the helicopter's window, a white woman smiling benignly like one of the placid, incongruous observers in medieval crucifixion scenes. Who's the white woman? I asked. You don't know about she? The young man scoffed. It's the Iron Maiden that she flying and all the ganja mission now. Some American woman from DEA or CIA or FBI, one of them team. And she wicked to ass. Yeah. Man, this what Seaga mean for it. So you better believe it. Manly, we go and vote for next time. It never could have gone so with the ganja man in a Manly time. St. Anne Parish is where Bob Marley's mother Cedella raised her son after his white English father left them. Marley is buried across the hills from Cave Valley in the village of 9 Miles. Marcus Garvey, the father of Pan-Africanism, was also born here in the main town of St. Anne's Bay, down the coast from where Columbus landed. The parish has always had a strong sense of itself, made stronger since the 1970s by the money ganja brought in. Herb by the ton was smuggled out on boats from Ochireas and small planes that landed on strips built by the ganja barons. Just like the roads they paved and the houses they built and the electricity they brought into dark dwellings perched on steep hills. Everyone knows who their real patrons are. They are not the politicians who live in Kingston and only show up in places like Cave Valley when it is time to raise votes. I kept my eyes on Brambles from the rum shop, admiring the way he darted through the crowd, kneeling to take pictures and climbing around for better vantages. He moved like a cat and smiling to himself, loving his work. When Collymore contingent left the square for the nearby fields, I followed behind Brambles and an old man with a harmonica, who played a sweet, lifting jig for Gallimore as we walked. Dorothy had gone back to town with her gun-toting bodyguard, so I rode with Brambles' media crew to the day's last stop, a village called Gibraltar, where a crowd of farmers had been waiting patiently since early morning for the city people to arrive. Gibraltar was in another constituency, represented by a woman with the sonorous name of Princess Laws. She was one of the JLP's rising female stars. Seaga liked working with women because they were both ambitious and practical, better at cooperating than the male MPs, who generally behaved like roosters in a yard. But Laws had thrown particularly to the winds that day. Her white crochet suit and black patent leather heels were far too elegant for a country visit. Sorry. The red clay had demolished her shoes, and she looked very uncomfortable among her peasant constituents with their bare feet and tattered clothes. They were waiting for us in a one-room schoolhouse, sitting on rough wooden benches and eager for the seeds and tools to replant their fields. But Gallimore had given almost everything away in Cave Valley, and there was not going to be enough to go around. Somehow I was recruited to unite a plastic bag full of seeds and divide them, to untie the plastic bag full of seeds and divide them into small amounts. Working frantically while Lars stood at the front of the schoolroom and delivered a speech. These seeds we have brought for you were given to our Prime Minister by the people of America, she said. Sorry, give me a second. I just skip 2 pages now. Yeah. They love, these seeds we have brought for you were given to our Prime Minister by the people of America, she said. They love us and they love Mr. Seaga. Do you know what the letters JLP stands for? They stand for Jesus love people. This is what we are. But the people of Gibraltar were in no mood for a soothing talk about Jesus. They were tired and angry, and they began first to murmur and then to shout and stomp. Brambles had ducked out for a smoke under the guinea tree in the schoolyard, and I went out to join him just before a small riot exploded inside. The long-suffering farmers rushed to the front of the room and engulfed their member of parliament in a shower of frown, grabbing for a handful of pumpkin or cabbage seed. Brambles was smoking one of his Cravenets and smiling his cat-like grin. This nothing, he said. I see some true riots in my time. You should have seen this country in 1980. Enough gunfire in my neighborhood then. He glared at me suddenly for emphasis. Laborites kill a brother right in my yard and Foster Lane, shot him in the lane and chased him through my gate, cornered him behind the fridge on my veranda and finished him off right then and there. It's so much killing I see. It's me have to spend the better part of that morning cleaning up the blood. I thank God my picnic, my children, were not there that night. Brambles told me he had a son and daughter who lived with him, but the boy wasn't born till after the election. Ricky was in Pet's belly still, and seemed like him come into this world already, freed from what his mother see in them times. Princess Laws had made her escape from Gibraltar while Brambles and I was talking under the guinea tree. Now the rest of the crew from JIS was piling into the van for the long ride back to Kingston. Even though I was riding with them, I felt a sense of urgency about asking Brambles for the favor I wanted before we got into the van with everyone else. Would you take me with you on a walk downtown sometime? I asked, just so I could get to know the area a little. He laughed. You have car and you still like walk foot. It's rough down there now, you know. Well rough. He looked me up and down, considering how much as a liability I would be on the streets of central Kingston. The place is cosmopolitan-like. Still, he mused. It was the waterfront once, so people used to seeing sailors and foreigners about the place. It's not like West Kingston. That place is full of nothing but pure overyard and people fresh from country and them suspicious to us. We were in the van by then, beginning to climb out of Gibraltar's narrow valley onto the better road to town. You know that Rosalind Carter came down to Raytown once when her husband was president, Brambles said, almost to himself. Raytown is a fishing beach on central Kingston eastern flank. The Mali government has started an urban development project for the fishermen there, and they brought Mrs. Carter to see it. Brambles covered her tour. The liquor sheds Manley built are derelict now, he said. All right, said Brambles, bringing himself back from the 1970s. Let me tell you what we are going to do. Is walk you want? All right, we walk. You meet me tomorrow, 10 o'clock, on the corner of East Queen Street and High Albon. There's a football field there, and I will walk up from my yard to find you. He was quiet for the rest of the trip back to Kingston, and when the van left me at Jamaica House, he hardly said goodbye. I wondered if he would even show up as I waited the next morning. Standing next to a little scrapboard stand where an elderly higgler was selling cigarettes, matches and orange, she peeled me one and then hung the spiraling skin neatly on a string above her, saving it to make tea. Classic tea, that is, very nice tea. The streets was roaring with market day traffic, and the new Japanese minibuses everyone called quarter millions were fighting a black pile of diesel smoke through the harsh sunlight. The rum shops, barber shops, tailoring establishments, and cook stands were all doing fast businesses, and the streets vibrated with Saturday morning energy. I looked down High Albon and saw Brambles swinging towards me with his loose, easy gait, wearing his camera like a necklace. "What?" he said casually. "You find this place with no problem." "It's hard to miss a football field," I said, and we stood for a while, side by side, watching the kids shout and sprint their way through the soccer match. "So we walk," Brambles said after a while. "I show you parade." The square is downtown Kingston's heart, presided over by the ice blue and white theatre, a Victorian wedding cake of a building where Norman Manley launched a PNP in 1938. The hall next door where Marcus Garvey's voice once rang out had been torn down, and the site was a bus yard now, clamoring with activity as the rusted buses unloaded country people and their crocus bags full of produce. The buses were beautifully painted with names like King Alfonso and Conquering Lion, but they were in terrible condition. I had lost a dear friend, a Montego Bay musician, to one of these buses. He fell through the rotting floorboard and was ground to death in the gears. Really? We walk across parade to the new covered market Seaga had built for the higglers, who were now being called informal commercial importers, in recognition of the fact that their weekly runs to Miami and Panama furnished Jamaica with most of what they wore. You could glimpse their power and authority in the Miami airport. Woe to any overzealous airline employees who told them they couldn't put their refrigerator-sized boxes of Pampers and soap powder in baggage. The higglers sat in their palace on parade with mounds and racks of lacy panties and fluttering bras, cheap Indian cotton and plastic shoes, calling out good prices and friendly insult to anyone who tried to bargain them down. This place going on down King Street used to be where everyone came to buy on a Saturday, Brambles said. But then the big man them build the plaza up in Constant Spring and Ligani, and it's only we sufferers come to parade now. We crossed the East Street and walked down it until we came to the sea. I wanted to see the spot where the famed Myrtle Bank Hotel had stood. A palm-fronted palace beside the United Fruit Company pier. It opened a magic window on the world, wrote Vic Reed, a Raytown child who grew up to become a poet, novelist, and historian. The Myrtle Bank catered to the first white tourists from England and America who came on the United Front Company's ship, and Reed remembered the tourists as dons, nobles and mafias and dolls, debutantes and tarts. But the influence belonged only to foreigners, something Brambles knew for himself. We stood in the hot winds of the water, and he spoke of being a little boy and watching the rich people getting off the ships. I used to hang around the pier by the Myrtle Bank in them times. Used to dive naked for the coins the crew ship passengers flung over the side. I was one of the best swimmers. The GLP tore down the hotel and the pier in the early 1960s and built new wharves, Newport West and the West Kingston waterfront, close to the party's own stronghold, where it could control who got work on the docks. That was when Central Kingston began to die. The Laborites always hated this area, Brambles said, because they could never control it. Too cosmopolitan, too open to the sea. We turned north, away from the water, and began walking into the residential core of the neighborhood, crossing old streets and lanes named English sovereigns and tropical commodities, Georges, Hanover, rum, and gold. It was at a dance on Gold Street in 1980 that PNP gunmen opened fire on a crowd, a reprisal after someone stoned Manley in a motorcade. 3 people died. Notice that police station is right across the street, Brambles said as we strolled by. But no one came to pursue the gunmen. Gold Street is no man's land. The gunmen had bigger guns than the police them time. The gunmen had them 16. The gunmen had, you know what I say, serious firepower. You know, see. Gold Street was just one of several demarcations that splits the neighborhood in two. To the west was territory that belonged to a PNP gang called Tel-a-Viv. To the east was Foster Lane, where Brambles lived, High Albon, and Fleet Street. That section was known as Southside, a little GLP enclave within the heart of Central. Its reigning gang was the Southies, sometimes called the Renkers, and they got their guns from the GLP. We walked by a crumbling brick cottage on Fleet Street with graffiti that said, "Eddie me love," meaning Seaga. Even with the rot and crumble, the bullet marks and the rubbles from burnt out building, there was something left of Central's farmer grace. Behind twisted zinc fences and scrapboard dwelling rose the leafy branches of mango, ackee, breadfruit, and almond trees planted decades before by the neighborhood's proud householders. Some of the concrete walls in front of the old cottages were topped now with broken glass to repel marauders, but the cottages themselves were beautiful despite their dilapidation. They still had carved wooden tracery above doors and windows, and names etched into their gates. Evelyn's cottage, said one. Harlem, said another. The place was sweet once, Brambles said, before politics turned the people against each other. This was where you came to store away upon a boat for America in the days before planes. He told me he had watched his mother walk onto a ship bound for England in the 1950s, and he never saw her again. His aunt raised him. She was strict. You didn't cross her lest you want a beating. But through I go without a mother, I feel my own pitney never going to go without me. It was a promise he struggled to keep. He had come to the wooden gate of his yard, and we paused to look up and down Foster Lane. It was no wider than a car, and the ceaseless pour of neighborhood sounds reverberated up and down its tunnel. Shouts and cars came from all sides, along with music, crowing roosters and barking dogs. Central sounded like its own small village, but most of all, it was the crying of children that became, for me, the signal sound of the ghetto, wailing punctuated by laughter. In the upstairs windows of the rum shop across from Brambles' yard, a woman leaned out, bare-breasted, to catch stray breeze from the harbor. She was laughing into the sun, and she looked down at me and smiled. Brambles opened his gate to the self-contained world of a tenement yard, where 10 people lived in a row of 3 12-square-foot rooms lined up along a concrete veranda. His room was on the Foster Lane end of the row, so it had a window that looked out over the shard-topped wall. I went to stand by it and instinctively drew away to the side, still looking out. Brambles laughed. "You stand like a gunfighter," he said tactically. He had 2 pieces of furniture, a double bed and an old glass front cabinet where he kept china, glasses and utensils. His cameras and archive of photographs and slides were hidden under cloths in a corrugated cardboard barrel. Neatly pressed shirts hung on a line across the bed. That was where his children slept. Brambles told me he usually bedded down on the concrete veranda. "Not enough time. I don't even sleep down here," he said. "I just bleach all night." To bleach is to never close your eyes into darkness. Warieka though. Sorry. It's too much noise about the place for sleep. His daughter Natalie was sitting on the veranda playing house with her box of cheddars, a blonde Barbie doll and some old doll clothes, Brambles' empty aftershave bottles, and a shard of mirror. She paused every now and then to gaze into it, admiring the fresh cornrows a neighbor had given her that morning. She was 9 and already an almond-eyed beauty, much darker than Brambles and conscious, he said, of the difference in their skin. She resembled her mother but adored her father and often stayed up with him at night, listening to the talk between him and his friends. The yard had its matriarch, an old woman named Auntie, who sat sewing in the far corner by her room. She earned a few dollars doing piecework for a tailor up the lane. Carol, the single woman who lived with her baby in the middle room, was washing dishes at the standpipe. Brambles' yard had running water, a toilet and a shower, and that made it the kindest of all of the neighborhood tenement yards I came to know. None of them had water, and many had no latrines either. People pissed on the ground and defecated into buckets, emptied later into the gully that flowed along South Camp Road into the harbor. At times later in that year, I would sit on the veranda while Brambles took a shower and listen to the water sluicing over him, feeling intense pleasure at the sound. Next to food, water is the ghetto's greatest luxury. We pass the rest of that first. Now, let me explain. Water is the ghetto's because it was a sabotage why the ghetto never had water. Jamaica is the land of food and water. Jamaica and a whole has never been short of water. It's how people politicize the distribution of such during them period as well, which is something we should fail to highlight. You know, most of it was politics, you know, and continues to be so today. We passed the rest of that first afternoon sipping cold beer and reasoning on the veranda until the shadows lengthened and the neighborhood came to Saturday Night Live. Some of the sufferers, whom Brambles called the professors of prophecy, came by his yard to check me out. One was an old man named Keith, who used to be a sailor. Brambles called him an elder, even though he was barely out of his 40s. I was beginning to see that living to that age qualified someone as a survivor. Down here, said Keith, we have all the time in the world to observe the way things go, and none of the power to change them. So we is all philosophers of a sort. He took us later that night to his favorite brothel in Raytown, the Seaview Club, where a string of Christmas tree lights garlanded the gateposts, and the rooms upstairs were painted a faded, gaudy turquoise. There was no one there, and it looked as if there never would be. A tel-a-viv youth named Bruce came with us, and he brought along a little notebook with verses he had written to no one in particular. One had a long title, What I Have Learned in Life Through the Acknowledgement of My Hardship, Desperate Needs, and Hostile Tribulations. One should never give up to the failures of survival, such as illiteracy, folly, and helplessness. When I asked Bruce how he lived, he murmured, by the mercy of God, I just try not to get stagnant and try less. He was in love with words for their power, but he had nowhere to use them. So he spent long hours talking with the grizzled ex-leaders of the tel-a-viv gang, a veteran street fighter named Dixie Dawkins, and he and Dixie reasoned the time away, redeeming their lives with talks. That was one of the strategies for survival downtown. Another young man named Winston Gray showed up at Brambles' yard with his guitar. He strummed songs by Sam Cooke and Otis Redding and sang in a soft tenor. We did What a Wonderful World together. Winston loved country music best, especially sentimental gunfighter ballads. He laughed when I said I had an American friend who called country music the white man's reggae. When the old man, everyone called Chronicles, came by the yard, Brambles had told me about him and how he had gotten his nickname from his perfect memory. Life down here is just a daily burning, the old man said. When election time comes, politicians hand out liquor work, gully cleaning projects and street sweeping and such things. It is so ironic the ghetto youth will starve just to dress expensive and impressive in foreign clothes and shoes, what we call trash and ready. Many a youth stray in his yard all week, keeping his threads only for important occasions like a funeral or a dance. The next night was Sunday, when Raytown hold its weekly street dance that goes on until dawn, beside the high brick walls of the general penitentiary. The DJs set up booming speakers and duel with each other to see who can dig up the best oldies, the most danceable favorites from the glory days of ska, reggae, and rhythm and blues. The Raytown dance has been going on for so many years that it's become a Kingston institution, the only downtown fete that uptown people come to. Classy women from Barbican and Stony Hills bring their dates to skank for a few hours, unmindful of color and caste. Next to the sufferers, their outfits, and mindful of colors and class next to the sufferers. Their outfits are always a study in contrast, since the uptown girls are usually in sequins and satins, and the ghetto daughters come in their most casual streetwear, track shorts, tube tops, and the ambiguous hair curlers. But the music is what matters, and it brings everyone together in a unifying force field of song. It's the same music black and white Americans danced to in the era of civil rights. The Four Tops, Wilson Pickett, Martha Reeves, and the Vandellas, Gladys Knight and the Pips, mixed in with Burning Spear, Toots and the Maytal, and Bob Marley. Forget your sorrows and dance. But the people are always there too. The Gleaner's Gossips columnist wrote about the Raytown dance and the cops a few days later. The only thing I found disturbing was a police jeep passing through, minus license plate, and the driver with a gun in hand, firing shots in the air. No fear was shown by the large crowd, but as one reveler put it, I saw them police boy are going all the while. Them just come to frighten people. It was a very happy gathering, but I do wish the guns were silent. Brambles and I stayed at the dance until just before daylight, and by then it was too late for me to drive back uptown alone. We walked across South Camp Road to his yard, passing by the little bridge that spans the gully where a group of men hang out until dawn. I fell into bed with Natalie and Ricky, and Brambles took his blanket out to the veranda, bleaching till the sun rose to the sound of crowing roosters and barking dogs. And that the one Brambles do. You really go to a veranda, but how would the Brambles, you know, say all of them signal all along? Anyway, we're not going to that, because you don't know. You know, see it. Yeah, so that's a chapter 3. But Brambles, you know? Brambles are grabbing blanket and go out a door star. Yeah, and the story I get interesting. I love the build up, you know, see it, because so far, you know, it kind of sound boring, but you don't know. They have to build up the story for reach to the climatic part of the whole thing. You know, see, we have some whole heap of other chapters, interesting. You have Blood and Fire, you have Endgame, you have Meeting in Rankers, and them chapter there, you know, me I say Soldier in the Field. I have a whole heap of chapter I forgot you, we don't know, it seems really interesting. So you don't know, let's keep it real. And continue to share, like, and subscribe and comment. You see it. Like Mr. Little more mega drop the prison drama. See? So you don't know. More bless. And if you reach to this far, just comment. Prison drama. More bless. Rastafari. You see it. Yes, I.